The three-stage model for memory is a very influential model for helping us understand how memories are developed and held in the memory system. This diagram indicates that there are three stages: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. And the short-term memory store is one of the most important because it's, in a way, it's sort of the bottleneck of the system. If you look down here in the bottom, we can see that the duration for short-term memories is pretty limited, 20, 30 seconds, something like that, unless we do something to put it into long-term memory or just say it over again. In other words, just rehearse it. As the bottom arrow shows, the information is lost. It's gone when we cannot get it back. So we've got 20, 30 seconds to do something with what we're trying to remember. And also the capacity is limited. Look at it here. It says it's between 5 and 9 items. So it's about roughly 7 different things can be held in short-term memory. That's not a lot. So that means that we kind of have to do some processing pretty quickly if we're going to move things out of short-term memory. Now, it is possible to actually increase the capacity and duration of short-term memory. And if you look at this slide, what we see is 25 bits of information, that is to say 25 letters that seem to be unrelated. And if we were trying to remember them, we would have a difficult time because short-term memory limitation is about 7 different things, and there are 25 different things here. So if we're going to try to remember it, what we might try to do is say, okay, well, I can try to make 5 words out of these 25 letters. And that's okay, that's a good strategy, except look at the words. They really don't make sense. They're not any words that we've seen before or can relate to, so it's going to be difficult to make them into some sort of meaningful whole. However, there are often patterns that we can recognize and actually put a lot of different things into much smaller units, and that phenomenon is called chunking, C-H-U-N-K-I-N-G, chunking, and it refers to chunks of information. Now, if you look at this this slide here with the 25 letters, and at this point, if you're watching the video, you'll need to pause it before you look at the next slide, because I'll give the give the answer. So if you want to pause it, do so right after I tell you what the directions are. The directions are to chunk these 25 bits of information into one meaningful unit. And as I always say in my classes, it's something that everybody already knows. You already know how to combine these 25 letters into one meaningful unit of information that you have already stored in long-term memory. The problem is finding that pattern of letters. And if you were able to do it successfully, it's called chunking. You're putting 25 into basically one meaningful unit. So at this point, pause if you want to try to puzzle this out, and if you continue, I'm going to reveal the answer. So the way to chunk these 25 independent letters into one meaningful unit is to start at the bottom here with the F, work your way up 4, and then the S comes back down and works up to make score, 4 score, and 7 years ago. So that is taking, as I've said, 25 different things and combining them in a meaningful way to make one thing. And that phenomenon is called chunking. Now in short-term memory, it's also called working memory. There are 3 sort of different parts, a kind of a visual sketch pad, if you will, a central executive, and that's sort of the entity of part of memory that's sort of overlooking everything, and then the phonological loop, which is the auditory part. So we've got a visual part with the sketch pad, we've got an auditory part, and then we've got some central executive that is kind of overseeing all of this. And we can see that happen when we consider the situation of a waiter coming up to take orders. And what the waiter or waitress might do is to figure out where the different plates go, and kind of make just a visual sketch pad in his or her head. Also, they may be able to either chunk the information, the orders, or just simply repeat them in this phonological loop to try to remember them. But what they're trying to do is to keep them in short-term memory. That's the whole purpose here. So again, we come back to the short-term memory is a bit of a limitation in the sense that it can only hold a short amount of information for a fairly short period of time. And we'll see how this relates to long-term memory next.